Welcome back, focused learners. Okay, let's dive into this. Today, we're exploring an incredibly raw, super intense firsthand account of psychological survival. This source material really just plunges us straight into the deep end of the human mind, mapping out a deeply personal experience of extreme paranoia, observation, and internal division. To really get a grip on the author's mindset, we kind of have to establish their baseline reality first. The text kicks off with this incredibly powerful statement: every day is a new chapter of my life, every day there are new observers, and every day there are new revelations. I mean, really think about the weight of those words for a second. For this person, life just isn't a continuous, predictable flow like it is for most of us. It's a series of daily psychological shifts, all happening under this constant, unshakable feeling of being watched. This isn't just some fleeting thought. It's the absolute foundational framework of their entire daily existence. Section 1. The Daily Revelations. We're going to start from the outside and move inward, taking a look at the completely overwhelming external environment the author perceives. So, to understand this environment, it's actually fascinating to look at why the author believes this is happening to them in the first place. They state that the harm they experience and these revelations they keep uncovering are triggered by their very own intelligence in investigation and observation. You see, the author perceives their suffering not as some random string of bad luck, but as a direct consequence of their own hyper-awareness. It's like their sharp intellect acts as a catalyst for everything that follows, basically making them a target in their own eyes, precisely because they just see too much. Section 2. The External Threat. Let's transition over to the primary source of the author's external anxiety. Now, treating this objectively as an anthropological artifact of human consciousness under extreme stress, well, what's really interesting about this is the stark, almost clinical terror of the definition presented in the source material. The author identifies their antagonists as the observers, and according to the text, these are evil minds experimenting on the human body like rats to learn how to control emotions and destiny. It is a chillingly specific paranoia. The author literally feels reduced to a test subject in this massive, malicious experiment designed to hack human emotion and faith itself. Let's actually break down the complex motivations attributed to these observers. The source material outlines 4 key goals. 1. They want to take the author's life. 2. They want to appear righteous in the eyes of God. 3. They want to learn how to control emotions. And 4, ultimately, how to control destiny. Look at the totally bizarre paradox here. The observers are described as committing profound harm, experimenting on a human being like a rat. Yet at the exact same time, they're striving to appear righteous to a higher power. It just reveals this highly complex, layered framework of persecution constructed within the author's narrative. So, faced with an environment where you genuinely believe unseen forces are actively experimenting on your consciousness, a critical question obviously emerges. How does the author actually cope with this external manipulation? We're going to use this question to shift our focus away from the external paranoia and dive right into the intense internal battleground of the author's mind. Section 3. The Internal Conflict. This introduces the core psychological mechanism the author uses to process all this intense external pressure. To process this immense, crushing pressure, the author outlines a literal fracturing of the self into 2 totally distinct identities. They explicitly state that they find 2 versions of their self fighting it out, the Satan and the angel. And this brilliantly illustrates the internal dual consciousness at play here. Remember, we aren't judging this text at all. We are simply exploring their internal mythology to understand exactly how they survive. So on one side, we have the Satan persona, which is characterized by negative speech, envy, cursing, and wasting time. And on the absolute opposite side is the angel persona, which possesses the power to suffer, totally understands psychology, and attracts God's word. It's a stark, fascinating binary of coping mechanisms. Let's look a little closer at that first persona. The author writes that when the Satan dominates, they basically just want justice for their suffering, but this ultimately translates into wasting time talking about entirely useless things. It is absolutely crucial to analyze this Satan persona not as a literal mythological demon, but as the author's entirely natural, deeply frustrated human reaction. It's the voice of perceived injustice, the desperate lack of control, and that exhausting anger that comes from feeling perpetually victimized. Section 4. Suffering and Salvation. Let's move to and see how this builds into the ultimate coping mechanism and exactly how the author manages to find meaning. Here we really see the true utility of the angel persona.
It isn't just about being good in a moral sense. It actually functions as a highly logical, step-by-step survival strategy against those observers. Step 1, the author gains the power to suffer. Step 2, they use their intellect to understand the psychology and the games of the manipulators. Step 3, having decoded the game, they actively move away from the manipulators. And finally, step 4, they find peace by attracting what they call God's word. It's a highly structured mental pathway right out of victimhood and into resilience. I want to pause on this exact quote from the text. The power to suffer, knowing the psychology of the human mind, how they play games and yet moving away from them, attracting God's word. Notice that very first phrase. So the crucial point is that the author's ultimate victory is not actually about escaping pain at all. It's about claiming the power to suffer. It's about enduring the absolute crucible of their reality with this profound, almost detached understanding of their tormentors. They survive not by running away physically, but literally by outthinking the psychological experiment entirely.
Which brings us to a compelling final thought. While this source material is a highly specific, super intense personal account of extreme paranoia and survival, it kind of asks something of all of us. How do we all, to some degree, construct our own internal narratives, our own little versions of the angel and the Satan, to battle our everyday external pressures and our own internal demons? This document isn't just about one person's perceived observers. It's a stark magnifying glass held right up to the incredible, sometimes fractured resilience of the human mind. I really hope this explainer gave you a whole new perspective on the lengths to which human consciousness will go to protect itself. Thanks so much for joining me. Keep learning, and as always, keep questioning.